Hello ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, my name is OctoMan, and in this video we are going to take a look into how we can animate drawers smoothly using animations. So in one of the last videos I was showing how we can use buttons to switch them in between. So we had some rather simple setup in which we could just when we click one button we deactivated another or the same button, but also deactivated another one. Then we had some kind of a button holder which was taking care of that, and today I want to show you how we can create this by using animations, but with a rather simple setting. So what we are going to do is we're gonna click one of them buttons and open and close these drawers just by using a simple setup over here. By using animations we can open them all hopefully at the same time, depending on where the hitboxes for these buttons are. So these are still buttons, as you can see they're reacting like buttons, but in here we are able to smoothly animate them in between one or the other state at the same time, or even not, and so on and so forth. So let's take a look how that works. So first off, let me get rid of the cabin over here. So we're gonna start literally from scratch. So what you need is a simple drawer. I'm gonna open this one pretty quick in the sprite editor. So basically you just need anything, any object, and any kind of a drawer, like this one over here. We don't need these two things. These were just for the button setup over here. So what we use is only this one. Now you wonder, how is that part becoming invisible when we go and open and close that things? Well, that's what we're gonna take a look in a moment. So first things first, we need a drawer in our canvas. So create a canvas and make this one scale with screen size if you like to. You can set this one up in any way you want to. And let's take a look what we need. First, I'm gonna drag the simple canvas as an image over here inside that, but as we can see it's not an image, it's a sprite render component. So I'm gonna do this once again and do it a bit different. So is there a difference between one or the other? Well, yet the actual workflow is a bit different. So what I need is a 2D object which is going to be an image component over here, but it seems I'm blind today. Or maybe they've changed that a bit. I don't know where it is. Funny. Anyhow, my image components are not here, not inside the canvas itself, which is absolutely phenomenal. So usually it should be an image component. Let's see. Why can't I use an image or create an UI image, a UI element over here? Well, let me undo multiple times, so I'm gonna get my simple drawer back, but not this one. This cabin is an image component. That's interesting. Why couldn't I go and create one? Why can't I create an image? That's pretty weird. Okay, anyway, let's create just an empty like this and add an image component over here. Usually you should be able to create normally an image component with its game object already set over there. So we can name this one drawer cabin or whatever we want to. We just hit F2 to rename this one. I'm gonna name this one cabin 2. I get rid of the other one since I got it over here. So actually the size of this image is going to be whatever size we want. Now we can put in the drawer image itself. I'm gonna go with preserve aspect ratio so I can scale this one up and down however I want to. And I want to make sure that this image is not targetable if I don't need it literally. So what I can do is I can say over here, deactivate raycast target. So I cannot target this with the mouse. Next one is I want to make a child of that, which should be also an image component. Once again, I have no idea what's wrong with my Unity currently. So I need to create a new 2D object. I just go and duplicate this one and name this one D1 for drawer 1. And I make this one child of the cabin. But before I do so, I'm gonna go and switch the graphic for that, which is going to be this drawer. And I can already start to position this wherever I want. Also, I can get rid of this weird sizing over here, because as you can see, it scales quite strange. So where do we need this to be? Well, first off, let's go and scale this one over size so it is fitting inside this area over here. So I can put this down below, and it should be kind of matching before we go forward. So I'm gonna scale, hold shift and go over a corner is going to scale it like in aspect ratio. So make sure the height of the top of the lid and the bottom are going to be the same, as well as on the other side it should be pretty close inside this corner. Probably it's a bit hard to see. So as you can tell, this one is not really hiding the backside of our image over here. So to do that, we're gonna need another copy of this actual object. And this is going to be our actual, let's say, mask. This mask object does not need a sprite. So I'm gonna go and set it to be none. Also, I like to set it to be black. But what we now want to do is we take mask and put this into the opposite of the corner. So in that case, we need to corner this to that part over here, because that is the size of the lid. But also the drawer, or this drawer object, is going to open and close accordingly. Now what we want to do is we want to take D2 and make a child of this mask object. This mask object now needs to get a mask component, so add a mask component. Now what we can see is we can deactivate the actual image of this mask. So we can just deactivate it, so we still mask out whatever is outside of this black image mask is not visible. So, and now we can animate D1. So in that case, first off, we want to make sure that this gets a button. But before we go to this point, we want to make sure that mask is not raycast targetable. This is super important over here. It is maskable, but it is not targetable. But on the other hand, the drawer, this should be raycast target, so we can click it with the mouse whenever we want to click it. Now let's go to the animation. So first off, we go to Window, Animation, Animation, and so the animation window pops up. We want to create a new animation. We can name this whatever we want, and we can also go and create a new folder, which we're gonna call Animations. Gonna type that one in. It's on my other screen, so don't worry about it. And I'm gonna name this one Open Drawer. Maybe I have a typo over there. Yeah, I have a small typo, but that's okay. So now you should see Open Drawer over here inside that. And if you have renamed it correctly or named it correctly, of course, you wanna have, or you will have this one over here. Now we want to do an animation. In our case, it's just a movement animation. So I hit the record button and go to the first second over here, which is 60 frames long. Now what we want to do is we want to drag the drawer into the bottom left corner of our mask object. Like so. If you want to, you can go even deeper so it looks a bit more, let's say, correct over here. But in my case, I believe that's pretty much okay the way it is. You can resize the mask, of course, later on, or you should be able to resize it, but make sure that you take D1 out of the actual mask. so be sure at the very beginning that your sizes are correct. For me, it doesn't look correct over here, but when we now press play, we're gonna open the drawer with just a simple movement animation. If that doesn't look correct for you, you can just stop the play mode and just take a look once again if everything works. You could also just open half of the actual drawer. In that case, you would reduce probably the drawer like that. The actual animation over there is ending a bit earlier, like for example we go a bit back, but then we bring it a bit down, so we literally end up smoothing or bringing the drawer over the actual corner at the bottom over here. As long as you are inside the mask itself, you're good to go. You can open and close it as much or as less as you like to, and you can repeatedly open and close this animation. So we have now masked out and animated our drawer. We can stop record mode and close the animation window. Final thing is, we need 2 more animations for this particular drawer to set it up correctly. So what does it mean is, we can once again, we should have kept that one open. Make sure you are still at D1. Now we're gonna go and add a new animation clip. For that, we're gonna open that. So we have like an open idle or idle open drawer animation clip. So when the idle open animation is going to be needed, it doesn't really need much keys but one. The one key we need is this key over here in the back side. The easiest part to fix that or to get this position correct is not copy, because copying this key is literally impossible. I tried to by hitting Ctrl C, go to idle drawer and hit Ctrl V, but nothing happens. So instead of copying the actual or creating a new animation over here, we duplicate the open drawer and rename it to be idle open or idle open drawer. You can rename these as whenever you or how often and however you please and like. Same here, you can rename them by hitting F2 on the keyboard on the PC. Now double click to open this new animation and get rid of the first key, or copy this first key or the second key over there, go to minute 0 or the actual frame 0 and paste by hitting Ctrl V on the keyboard on the PC. So whenever we would go and play this animation, make sure it is collected or selectable over here, which is currently not. So we need to fix that, because we have copied that over, but it is not relative to our current object. Also, we need another animation, which is just the idle close state. Literally, there is a way to get rid of that or stay away from that by just not playing the animation or pausing the animation. But it is easier to create a new one and just hook it up correctly. So, selecting D1 once again. Window, animation, go here, create new clip. And name this one idle close animation. Or idle close drawer. So we have the idle close drawer, and when we play this, as you can see, nothing is moving and we don't want to move anything here. Now the next thing we want to take a look into is the Animator Component. So the Animator Component is already attached to our drawer object, so we can double click D1 and take a look. The first one is this one. If you don't like the typo, you can correct it in here as well, which is on the right side of the inspector. And the connected motion is open drawer with a speed of 1. The idle drawer does not have any motion because we were just copying and pasting it. So I'm gonna take the idle open drawer. And then we have the idle close drawer, which is already connected to this motion. Now what we want to do is we want to set it up so that whenever the open drawer has to be played, we want to go and play it. But beforehand, let's go and reorient or let's say arrange our animation. First, we want to make sure that our drawer is starting in the closed state. So right click, set as the default layer. Now we want to make it so that whenever we want to go and open the drawer. So we make a transition, right click on this to this piece over here to play the open drawer animation. Then we want to make a transition to this one and stay over here until we click once again, and then we go back to, well, where do we want to go back to? Well, literally we need to go back to open drawer, but in reverse. To do so, we can hit Ctrl D and duplicate the open drawer animation, and we name this one close drawer animation. What we want to do is we want to reverse the speed from 1 to negative or -1. So this animation plays backwards. We want to create a new transition from here to here and from here to here. So we now go and start to idle close drawer, and now we need to condition when do we want to open the actual drawer. In that case, we go over here to parameters, hit the little plus symbol, and create a new trigger. We're gonna create a trigger called open. So basically it is not directly open, but it is easier for us to, remember this. It's better to name it something like animate, because we don't really open it when we're gonna close it, but we're gonna use the same trigger if we want to. We can also create another trigger which just makes sure that we close this one animation over here. But since we are using the one and the same button, we want to have only one trigger at a time. So in the list of conditions, when we select this transition over here, we want to enter or pass in the open condition. Also in settings, we want to make sure that exit time is going to be 1 and transition duration is set to be 0. So we fully play the animation over here. Also, we want to make sure that this one has no exit time. Basically, this animation or this step here is not really necessary, since whenever we have no exit time, this exit time, as you can see, is irrelevant. Same for the transition duration. Now we want to play this animation and we want to go into this animation. Same here. In this case, we want to use exit time. We want to play it until it's done. So we just change the exit time to 1, the transition duration to 0. So we have a full animation, and then we go here. This transition needs our condition open again. So when we click it once again, we're gonna be able to close the drawer afterwards. We don't need any exit time, so basically this transition time doesn't need to be set to anything. If you want to, you can set it to anything you want. The close drawer is going to play, and once it is done, we want to go back to the idle close drawer. So in here we're going to change that to be 1 and 0 again. So that's basically it. Let's test it out. We can press play over here. But I need to go out of maximize and play, hit pause for a second and play again. Now when I select the open trigger over here, the animation plays. We can select D2 to see what's going on and where we are with this little blue line. If we hit this trigger open again, it goes to the close animation part and goes back to idle close drawer. So we can now open it and close it one after another. The last thing is we want to set this D1 to be a button to trigger this open automatically. How do we do this? We select D1 and go into our inspector window and make this actual image to be a button. What we can see is now it is an interactable button. We can do any tinting by hover over and stuff like that. Hi Unlegit, thanks a lot for tuning in. So what we want to do is we add an OnClick event to this one D1. So we're gonna put ourselves this D1 into the OnClick event. What we want to trigger in this OnClick event is this little trigger. To do that, we go to No Function and hit the Animator Component. Then we're gonna go through the list and see where Set Trigger String is going to be located. We're gonna go and set trigger string, and the string we want to trigger is called open. It's the same as you can see from here. Now whenever we want to click, don't forget to hit enter once to apply the changes. And now whenever we are using the OnClick event, we're gonna go and use the Animator Component and set the open trigger to be triggered. So what does it mean if we go now and press play in full screen mode? We should be able to hover over the button. As you can see, there is some slight change over here. Make sure you have the event system in your scene, otherwise it doesn't work. And once you click play and we click on the button, you can see it does send the actual open command into the animation trigger. Clicking again will automatically close it. If you select somewhere else where the black mask is going to be located, it doesn't trigger at all, because we took care of that. The raycast target is deactivated on the actual mask over here. Have a good one, Unlegit. Have a nice sleep. Now, the last thing you want to do is you can now remember or rename the mask icon and so on and so forth. You can close the animator part. And the last thing you want to do is, like if you have a drawer with multiple things inside, you can duplicate this mask. Let me rename this one to be D1, or let's name it Drawer 1. And now we can duplicate the Drawer 1. Hit Ctrl D. And we're gonna put this just down below in the next piece over there. Since it is an image component, it is automatically clamping, as you can see, or using the actual anchors from the other images. So this one can now be named or renamed to be Drawer 2. And we can duplicate this once again. Bring this down over here, snap it to the other pieces over there, wherever it fits. And we can rename it to be Drawer 3. So now the question might be, why in the world do we need this mask? Well, it's masking out the object, but also it gives us a second opportunity. When we animate content, like we animate these drawers over here, they are animating not in world space, but on local space of whatever the parent object is. So that's why it makes us, or makes it easier for us to actually, open all of them based on their position or based on the objects in the hierarchy. So we can position them anywhere and they just do play the animation, and we're gonna keep the mask. But you have seen one thing. The object in the bottom has to be above the other two objects in the hierarchy. So for that we just need to rearrange the objects. Drawer 1 needs to be hierarchy wise below 2, and Drawer 3 needs to be above 2. So we're gonna have a different order. So top to bottom in hierarchy means bottom to top in our actual drawer. So the hierarchy is important to show everything above each other. So now you can open and close any drawer by not using just button flips, but in this case we can use rather simple and smooth animations and block everything we don't want the players to see in the game by using masks. If that tutorial has been helpful for you, feel free to thumb this video up if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And of course, feel free to send me any recommendations down below in the comments. If you have any questions, feel free to ask as well. And don't forget to check out the description for more and more content about my Udemy courses and anywhere else. And also I have a Skillshare account where you can also learn even more stuff. There are going to become more tutorials and series hopefully in the future about animations and stuff like that. So feel free to tune in later on and have a nice day. That's it for today. Bye bye.